Okay, we've beaten you over the head with its importance, but how do you go about defining and establishing your brand? Well, first things first, who is your target audience? One of the most common mistakes newcomers make to branding and marketing in general is trying to appeal to everyone. The maxim inked into 1,000 business books is true. If you try to appeal to everyone, you will end up appealing to no one. In both the baseball and softball communities, coaches, solo entrepreneurs, and businesses often take their target audience as a given, which is a big mistake. Maybe you're a baseball hitting coach wanting to grow your in-person and online lesson clients who thinks, my target audience is people who want to get better at hitting a baseball. Duh. Well, firstly, I don't appreciate the attitude. And secondly, according to the most recent data available from Statista, the number of people playing baseball aged 6 years and older is approximately 15.64 million. Given how hard it is to hit a baseball, I'd say that the vast majority of these people would qualify under your current definition of a target audience. You might see this as a massive opportunity. Many a naive entrepreneur has pitched investors with something along the lines of, we just need to capture 1% of this huge market and we'll be printing money. Well, 1% of total baseball players is 156,400 people. It's physically impossible to give hitting lessons to this many people as a single coach, unless you can also clone yourself a few hundred times, in which case you might want to just focus on that. But this isn't the only problem with this kind of thinking. For most hitting instructors, a consistent 60 clients singing your praises in the ball fields and post-game pizza parlors of America is something to aspire to. For those keeping count, 60 baseball hitting clients who love you and your teaching style is 0.038363. Well, you get it. It's a very tiny percentage of that 156,400 people. And remember, even that is only 1% of the total addressable baseball player market. Smart coaches spend their time cultivating a small group of people who similarly believe in them and will actively support their mission. We call that small group a target audience. What's my target audience? A target audience is made up of three things: demographics, psychographics, and behaviors. Demographics are made up of things like age, gender, income, education, and location. Psychographics are psychological characteristics and traits such as the customer's values, hopes, goals, interests, and lifestyle. And behaviors, of course, are what people actually do, like buy your service or not. Putting all these things together is how you create what some marketers would call a persona and what we're going to call here a target audience. Hotjar created the following formula to express this idea: demographics plus psychographics times buyer behavior equals actionable buyer persona. In business, generalization is your enemy. You should set out to solve a specific problem or problems, and only those who need a solution to that problem at a precise moment in their lives will be genuinely interested in what you have to offer. So, you want to sell people a thing. This thing can be a service, a product, a brand, or all of the above. You want to be like a journalist with your clients and customers, mapping out the who, what, why, when, and where. Who are your clients and customers? What thing do they need help with? And what thing are they interested in? Why do they want help with that thing? Or why are they interested in that thing? And when they need help with that thing? And when are they most interested in that thing? And finally, where do they need that thing? And where, if anywhere, are they finding that thing at the moment? What matters to your audience, not you, is what you want to laser focus in on. Pull out your pen and paper or an Excel sheet and write down the answers to the following questions in order to identify your target audience. Let's start with demographics. How old is your ideal consumer? Think about the types of services, courses, or products you're offering and consider who your lessons are most suitable for. Young children below 10 years of age, ball players 11 to 18, young adults 18 to 25, or mostly parents 25 plus. Knowing which stage in life your customers are can be important in assessing how you'll be targeting them later on. Are they beginners just starting in the game? Or are they vying for college scholarships? Are they independent enough to get your services themselves? Or are they dependent on their parents? Are they parents themselves? Or did they just enter or exit college? Referring to my previous point, how financially independent your audience is can influence how they spend and how much. Moreover, having an approximate idea of how much clients or customers are earning and willing to spend is significant to how you set up pricing. If you're already offering services or selling products, what types of jobs do your patrons have? Even though taking inventory of current clients' financial strata can help you know what you're attracting right now, they may not be representative of the target audience you wish to go after in the future. Note, All this money talk might feel awkward to most former players and current coaches, but whether you like it or not, everything you do and everything your brand puts out will send a signal to potential clients and customers that will either elicit a "this is for me" or "this isn't for me" type of response. If you or your brand are more blue collar, then lean into this and the values associated with it. If you want an affluent clientele, then everywhere you and your brand appears needs to express that what you offer is explicitly meant for them. For local businesses and local instructors, this location idea is paramount. For products sold online, remote lesson coaches, and digital entrepreneurs, location instead refers to where your clients and customers come from online. Depending on what you offer, location can tell you the most appropriate times to post content and precisely which platforms to focus your energy on. Which gender would your product or service interest the most? There's usually some crossover appeal, but the word most is what's key here. To return to our baseball hitting coach example, don't just fill out hitting here. What in this vast discipline is the pain point or two that you really want to focus in on? Here are a few common ones specific to hitting that you can put your energy into. Is it the just getting started player that's fearful of getting hit with a ball and needs a hearty mixture of fun, enthusiasm, and patience? Is it the little leaguer who's frustrated with riding the pine and wants to get better to get in the game? Or is it the intermediate player who's the proverbial 2 o'clock hitter, crushing in BP and wilting in the live games? Or is it the hitter making the jump from high school to D1 and struggling with the more advanced physical and mental demands? What main goal do your consumers want to reach? Is it more discipline, sharpened technical skills, more playing time, to play at the next level, to get a D1 scholarship, or to be drafted? What solution do you have to offer your consumers that will solve their problems? What particularly do you have that gives you an upper hand or sets you apart in the industry? Basically, how are you uniquely poised to solve a specific problem? Is it because you once had the same problem? Or you solved the same problem for many people? Or maybe it's both. Many will think about this solutions category exclusively as the type of product or service they're offering. In these questions, we don't only mean things like a physical product of wearable tech or a new hitting or pitching training aid, your travel team, organization, or recruiting consultant service, or even your online video courses, private, remote, or in-person lessons, or those nationwide clinics you're hoping to roll out. What we mean is what job is the customer or client hiring you or your product and service to do for them, and why should they choose you? Basically, how does your solution solve their pain point? This is what you first need to figure out and then communicate your answers vigorously and consistently to all future clients and customers. You should always consider your target audience's interests and values, but there's another way for you to identify and categorize them, and it's by understanding the 4 main personality types. These 4 types can be summarized as amiable, friendly. These types value personal relationships and want to trust the businesses they decide to engage with. Assertive, competitive, independent, and goal-oriented is how you would best describe this type. Expressive. Similar to amiable types, they also place a great deal of importance on relationships, but are a bit more focused on the well-being of the people involved, i.e. how you treat your employees, your former teammates, and current customers. Analytic. No-nonsense people who go after the data, the facts, and the technicalities of any subject. Think about which personality type or types are most represented in your target audience and do what you can to communicate your brand and its offerings accordingly. Anti-persona. Anti-personas are the opposite of what we've been talking about so far. These are the people that you do not want to be targeting, your not ideal customer. To figure out what their profile is like, brainstorm with the question, what type of person would not be a good match for my brand or service? This exercise is something all high-level marketers and brand experts employ. It can help to start with listing the photonegative opposites of your answers for all of the previous target audience questions. But the secret to branding and positioning is to not stop there. To gain dynamic energy and social power in any industry, you need to be as clear as possible about what you are against, just like you are for what you are for. It's best practice to never be against specific people, but instead position yourself or your brand against a common practice, training method, or what you see as our wrong way of thinking. We practice what we preach here at Seams Up. Even though baseball and softball coaches can list and be connected with fully vetted in-person lesson clients within our marketplace, what sets us most far apart is a seamless system that we've created to do any online private lesson variety imaginable, and to do so easily. We saw how coaches were doing remote lessons before we came along and thought it was categorically wrong. So we created a solution that's 100% free to use for all coaches. Here's how we wrote about exactly what we're against. If you've dabbled in giving online, aka remote baseball or softball lessons, you've likely felt the massive time sucker that is negotiating and scheduling Zoom, FaceTime, or Instagram live chats with multiple parents, let alone the client management stress of keeping track of everyone's payments, personal details, progress, and the drill drills and skills that you've already introduced in previous sessions. If not live streaming lessons, the other remote coaching option did previously involve parents sharing their ball players' footage. You might advertise for this service on your website, but you likely negotiated how to do this footage analysis process via text, email, or through social media, then used a file sharing software, Dropbox, Google Drive, WeTransfer, to share the player's footage, or gasp, tried sending video files over email, then used a swinger pitch analysis software to analyze the footage, then used another software to send the footage and your completed lesson feedback back, then logged into a payment software, Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal, to check on your lesson transaction. This makes no sense. You should not need 4 different pieces of software to conduct a single hitting lesson. And if you have more than a couple of clients, such things do not scale into a successful coaching business. Using our app, every one of these steps is completely streamlined and free for coaches, allowing you to focus on passing your expertise to the next generation of ball players. As you might be able to see, creating an anti-persona helps you establish yourself in any market by clearly stating upfront to prospects what you are good at and what you can help with and what you either can't or don't want to. Setting up such expectations from the get-go increases the trust people have for your business and makes them feel like a part of your specific tribe, as opposed to the tribe of your anti-persona. Don't forget to do some research on your competitors as well. Observe their most popular content and try to analyze their targeted audience. This will give you insight into how you can improve yourself and your business to help differentiate your value proposition. One of the most popular frameworks for competitor analysis is called SWOT. SWOT is an acronym that entails looking at your competitors' strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. To get started, ask yourself, what is your competitor crushing right now? Product, partnerships, social media, influencer marketing, etc. What area is your competitor the weakest? For example, they're great on social media with content and influencer affiliates talking about their offering, but their actual online educational video course or hitting gadget isn't high quality. Or maybe they simply don't know how to monetize their wonderful social media following through things like remote lessons. What do you or your brand have to differentiate itself from and gain an advantage over your competitor? Are there any opportunities you can find in the market that your competition has yet to capitalize on? What's the biggest threat your competitor poses and why? Once you've gone through and answered all of the brand questions to the exercises we've been talking about, you will already be miles ahead of most who ignore such target audience analysis in the baseball and softball space. To stay focused and actionable, a final exercise entails gathering and consolidating all of this information to form a small statement that clearly defines, at minimum, who your services are for, where are these people most likely to be found, and what are they trying to achieve. Okay, put a big check mark next to finding your target audience. Let's move on to some other considerations for establishing your brand. After getting deep into the nuances of figuring out your target audience, it's helpful to take a step back and consider the big picture. What do you want to be known for once you've reached a certain level of recognition? What's your truest passion? If you had to choose that one thing to be the expert on, what would it be? And finally, to drill down a bit more, are you trying to increase your profile in the industry to land a collegiate or minor league role? Or are you looking to make a living with your online and in-person services and products? Both are noble and of course worthwhile goals, but you should be as singularly focused on a single mission as possible. Okay, so you've got your brand questions answered. Now it's time to think about delivery and execution. This is probably one of the trickiest things to figure out as a solo entrepreneur. Having a clear relationship with yourself will ultimately make it easier for you to have a relationship with your community through your brand. People will find it easier to understand what values you are reflecting back onto them. 64% of people cite shared values as the main reason they have a relationship with a given brand. What are the key values you associate with yourself? What specifically do you stand for or against? Consistently standing against a certain way of thinking or coaching is again a surefire way of differentiating yourself from all the other people in our space. Boldness goes a long way in crafting a memorable brand. The ultimate aim here is to figure out what makes you who you are and what message you want to be consistently sending out to your audience. Can you think of one slogan you have, a phrase you always find yourself saying on repeat? Ideally one that's pushed you to keep going when you felt down. This phrase or slogan is a wonderful jumping off point for your brand and its unique voice. Your goal will be to make a promise to yourself and to your community that you will be who you say you are and to uphold yourself to that promise by remaining consistent despite the temptation to adapt to new ways of being that may emerge as popular or trendy as time goes on. Because even if people do not have the same values as you do, they will still be able to acknowledge and often respect your proclaimed identity. Recognize your trials and accomplishments. Be proud of what you were able to overcome by using that as your strength. The value that led you to being the person who you are today, the integral parts of your character, that quality is the one that will have the most powerful impact when presented to the world. It may seem like I'm just asking a barrage of questions here. Well, that's because I am. These questions are exactly what brand strategists ask the biggest corporations in the world to answer before they consider a full rebrand, and sometimes even before each new marketing campaign. So take some serious time to consider the answers to all of the questions we've been posing.